Squandered. According to a new report, Princess Anne has nothing to do with keeping Harry's inheritance money from his late mother safe. Instead, he had access to the bulk of it at age 30, and now he has wasted all of it on that evil narcissist Meghan Markle. Hello everyone, welcome back to the King YouTube channel. When it comes to the royal family's finances, the truth is the public doesn't know a whole lot, and that is intentional. Much of the royal family's wealth is protected by stuff like sealed wills and exemptions from taxes. So it's really hard to actually know what's going on when it comes to Harry's money. We have heard for years now that Harry's inheritance money from his late mother was being protected by his aunt, Princess Anne, and he wasn't going to be able to access the money until she decided he was ready. But now, according to this new report in the Mirror, it sounds like Harry has already accessed all of it. And the question now is there any of it left? According to the report in the Mirror, Frances Ruth Shand Kidd and sister Lady Elizabeth Sarah Lavinia McCorquodale were named as co-executors and trustees for Diana's estate. In Diana's will, she requested that almost all of her possessions be divided between her sons William and Harry, as well as her 17 godchildren. They got the rest of it, and then £50,000 was given to her butler Paul Burrell. Now, most of what Harry and William got was placed in a trust, and she wanted them to have access to that money when they turned 25 years old. But according to the Mirror, the court allowed Diana's mother and sister to change a few of the will's details. It was decided that the age at which the princes received their share was changed from 25 to 30. I'm sure you all remember when Harry said that he used his inheritance money from his mother to buy that stupid Olive Garden-looking McMansion that the two of them live in Montecito. So that might mean that it wasn't just part of his inheritance money. It could mean that he has spent all of it on that stupid McMansion. And according to California law, since Meghan and Harry were married when they bought that stupid house, that means Meghan is entitled to half of it. The house would be considered shared marital property, and most likely what's going to happen when, I'm not even going to say if, I'm going to say when Harry and Meghan get divorced, they're going to have to sell the house because let's be real, they don't really have a lot of liquid assets. They're going to have to sell the home for whatever they can get for it, which may not even be what they paid for it at this point in time. And then they're going to split that money down the middle. So that will mean that Meghan will have her greedy paws on a pretty big chunk of change. To be honest with you folks at this point, I don't see how there could be anything left of the money that Diana left for Harry. I mean, while he was still a working member of the royal family, I don't believe he had to dip into that money all that often because I think his needs were taken care of. But just think about how much money he and Meghan have blown through since they got together. I'm not only talking about the house and all the expenses going along with the house, I'm talking about the private jet flights, some of which I'm sure they did have to pay. Meghan's clothing allowance alone is about $1 million a year. I mean, they go on all these ridiculous vacations that are incredibly expensive. They've got to pay for security. Their cost of living is outrageous. All right, so that is Diana's inheritance money. Basically, now we know the full story. Harry had access to it when he was 30 years old. He still has access to it if there's anything left, but most likely he and Meghan have blown it all. But there is another source of money for Harry. There's also the trust that was set up by the Queen Mother for him before she passed away. Now, it's very difficult to find out exactly how much money could be in that trust. We don't know a whole lot about what the Queen Mother left behind. We do know that she left the bulk of her estate to her daughter, Queen Elizabeth II, but then she also set up a trust for her 4 great-grandchildren, and so Harry would be one of them, and that's the question here. How much money does Harry have access to in that trust, and who is protecting that money? And here, of course, is where Princess Anne comes in. So this is the money that we suspect Princess Anne is in control of, and so she can decide when Harry has access to it. Now, we've heard rumors that she may let him have access to it at age 40, but if he is still in the situation with Meghan Markle, we think it's highly unlikely. As far as we can tell, Princess Anne is no fan of Meghan Markle. Why would she be? She understands what Meghan is doing. She understands the grift, and so I don't believe she's going to let Harry touch that money until Meghan is well and truly out of his life. So let's think about what money Harry and Meghan could possibly be dipping into. They've already spent Diana's, of that I am certain. They don't have access to the money from the Queen Mother just yet. So what about Netflix? Well, Netflix has not yet paid out the full amount that they were contracted for because, well, Harry and Meghan haven't done the work. As long as Harry and Meghan don't produce any content, Netflix is not going to continue to shell out millions. Because, even though they signed that big contract, it was still dependent on the work that Harry and Meghan did. They were going to get the money bit by bit based on the projects they did for Netflix. Well, so far, they've only done 3 projects, and 2 have been absolute failures. So most likely, Netflix is not really feeling excited about giving them even more money to produce another failure. Another angle of this whole story is why? Why is the Mirror rehashing these old details from years ago at this point in time? This was published on December 31st of 2023. Harry has had access to this money since he was 30 years old, and William too. That was a decade ago for Harry nearly, and over a decade ago for William. So why is the Mirror publishing this information now? Well, some people online are speculating that it could be because Harry's planning to liquidate that stupid Montecito McMansion. Rumor has it Charles Spencer paid Meghan and Harry a visit in Montecito. We have no way to confirm whether or not that really happened. But if Harry and Meghan really are getting ready to call it quits, then Harry could be looking for advice on how to break up the estate in such a way that he comes out better than if the state of California handles it. And at this point, after everything he has done, it's not like he can turn to his father or his brother for help anymore. Under normal circumstances, of course, the royal family is really good at protecting their money, but they're not going to want to help Harry after everything he has said, after everything he has done. Absolutely not. So now he's got to turn to the Spencers for help. So California law does exclude inheritance money from community property, but the problem is Harry has already given Meghan most of it. He spent a lot of it, I think, on that stupid McMansion. I'm sure he is using Diana's money to make those mortgage payments. So the house Meghan does have access to, that definitely is community property, which means that in the case of the divorce, Meghan is going to walk away with half. It is such a shame. Harry has allowed himself to be completely taken advantage of by that nasty woman and her nasty mother, and probably Marcus Anderson involved too. It is such a mess. Harry, I think, has been absolutely swindled by Meghan and her mother. This was the plan the whole time. If you think about it, going back, it really makes sense. We know that Meghan never intended to stay on as a working royal. And I'm beginning to believe a big part of that reason is because she knew that she was not going to be able to get her hands on a lot of Harry's money if she stayed on as a working royal. Instead, they were going to continue to have their expenses paid for. But they were never going to be able to, buy a big McMansion together that they would then split in the case of a divorce. So if you ask me, that's a big reason that Meghan hatched her Megxit plan as soon as they got married, or probably even before. Her mission was to get Harry over to the US, where first of all, she could alienate him from all his family, all his friends, and keep him high as a kite. And then she could easily control him, take complete advantage of him, convince him that they needed to buy this house that they certainly never needed. It was so expensive, and it's so much space. Why do they need all that space for just the two of them and a couple of dolls? See, I think Meghan is smart enough to have figured out that moving to California was not going to give her access to Harry's inheritance money. Unless, of course, she convinced him to spend the bulk of it on a home for them. And she knew that according to California law, the home would be considered community property, and that would mean she would get half. It is a wicked scheme, but it is exactly the kind of thing that Meghan Markle would do. Now, I'm still going to be hunting around on the internet for any more information on the Queen Mother's trust money that maybe she left Harry. I don't know if I'm going to find any. I suspect all this information is kept private. But if Harry does have some money in that trust and Princess Anne is taking care of it, then at least he'll be able to live off that money once Meghan leaves him. And certainly the best thing for Harry to do once they do get divorced is go back to the UK, check himself into a nice, comfortable mental facility, and stay there until he is fully healed, until he has some sense of self, and until he has finally kicked his drug addiction. All right, everybody, that's all the time that we've got for now. Please let me know, though, what do you think of this information about Harry's inheritance money? Do you think there is anything left over for him? Do you think that he still has money from the Queen Mother waiting for him? Please let me know your opinions below in the comments section. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't hesitate to like and share it with anybody else who would appreciate it too. And don't be afraid to click the subscribe button to get more updates in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in, have a lovely weekend, and we'll be back to see you all tomorrow.